Santanu sir, it's an honor to have you on this talk on the roadmap for ECE students. And I have a pool
Thank
of
you, Tanya.
ask you today, but before that, I would like to introduce you to our audience.
Sure.
So Sir is the managing director of EDS India, which is one of the top 10 most promising electronics design houses in India. With over 26 years of expertise in the field of embedded system, he has worked with companies like Dan Electronics, ST Microelectronics, Pentair Water India, and Nynix Technologies. His mind is an ocean of technologies. So let's learn from him today. So, sir, my first question to you is that in field of electronics itself, there are numerous fields, subfields within it, and students are not usually aware of these fields. So, could you highlight some of the major fields and how can students know more about them?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Tanya, for inviting me, and a nice introduction from myself. Very good question you have asked about the fields in the electronics. Electronics is a vast field, basically starting from any device, whether you, so whatever device you see in today's world, starting from the small charger, power supplies to big automotive and IoT connected devices, machine to machine communication. A lot of things are happening in electronics. So and also recently in India also there are some growing trends along with the good promising environments what the government is trying to create by initiatives like Startup India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. So people are getting motivated towards having new things and works on the electronics. Okay, so there are various fields, but what I believe in coming years there will be good opportunities in the field of connected devices, IoTs,
Yes,
electric vehicles, EVs.
yes.
EVs will have very good feature, and your things related to artificial intelligence. These three fields will have more focus. EV mainly will have all things related to power electronics, mainly power and communication. IoT is purely on the communication sides, and then your artificial intelligence have all instrumentation, sensors, all the things covers the electronics.
So, which are the major fields in which you have worked? If you could highlight on those.
Uh, I have a very vast experience of 25 years working on almost all the field of electronics. I started my career with power electronics, designing inverters, UPS, drives, then moved to automation, means industrial automation sort of things, automotive drives, automotive valves controls. After that, I was serving ST Microelectronics, where I was a application manager for Pan India. There I was basically dealing of all the type of applications wherever is there in electronics, like consumer electronics, automotive, industrial automation, all things. And in the last 6 years we are mainly working on all types of electronic design, which involves mainly LED lighting or LED display boards, power electronics, EVs, controls.
Okay, that is like very lot of work you have done till now. So, why do you think there is so less students which are interested in this domain? They do not take up this domain. So, what is the reason do you think it is?
Yeah. Uh, that is a good question. Actually, what is happening in India is in India, we have a very good talent of software engineers, means software engineers. We have very good talent and we have good opportunities for software engineers in India. But unfortunately, the opportunities for electronics, pure electronics hardware engineer is limited because we don't have that infrastructure of hardware development. Means what I mean to say, if you compare Indian market with China and Japan, they comes up with different innovative hardwares in a quick span of time, whereas we don't have the infrastructure for those type of developments. So that's why people are not getting much attracted towards the electronics hardware stream. They are mostly preferring computer engineering or software engineering. Okay, but as we see the trend is moving, what we are trying to do as a in EDS or a similar startup like EDS, what they're trying to do is focus on the development of hardware in India, hardware segments, so that we can have good products, complete product coming out of Indian domain, not just the focusing on the hardware. So in next couple of years or so, I strongly believe we'll have good means hardware and scope of electronics engineers growing up in India.
Okay. So it is also a common belief among students that the pay scale in IT industry is quite high as compared to electronics industry. So is it true?
To some extent, it is obviously true because IT industries are the cream, basically good industry having a lot of means opportunities, and there are a lot of works coming out in the IT industries, and the demand is also there, and they are good paymaster as compared to electronics. That is obviously true. But the benefit of electronics engineer is that at the beginning of the career, he can decide if he has inclination towards software. He can also be a very good software side. He can switch from electronics to IT industries also after completing the graduation. So that is the benefit of an electronics engineer. Whether if he gets the opportunity of in the hardware pure electronics domain, he can go into the pure electronics. If you want to switch, he can always switch. But that is not feasible for any CS students. They cannot come to electronics.
Yes, that is
So
true.
that is the best benefit what an electronics engineer can get. He can
Yes.
any time in his career, he can switch to IT.
Because electronics
So
and
that is the only benefit with the electronics engineers. They can switch anytime between computers and electronics.
so how to start preparing for interviews and placements from college time, so that we can make oneself industrial.
Any other very good question, and what I have seen is lacking with the engineers. First thing is your basics should be clear. If your basics are not clear, if you are having a bookish knowledge, then your interviewer can easily understand that you are just trying to fake out. So to all the aspirants, I will like to say that they should must concentrate on their basics. Means if you are designing a circuit, you should be aware of each and every component, why you are selecting this component. What is the basic behind selecting a resistance of value 1K? Why you are selecting an NPN transistor, why not a PNP transistor? Means what are the basics of operations? There is no rocket science, nothing like that. We are studying this basics from class 12. But unfortunately, none of the peoples are concentrating on the basics.
Yes.
So if your basics are clear, you can design anything, you can work out anywhere. That gives you a confidence, basically, how good you are at the basics. To be very honest, I'll just tell you, I have interviewed more than 1,000 people in my tenure of 25 years. And one very common question I ask to every interview is, can you draw a bridge rectifier for me?
Okay.
And you also agree that bridge rectifier is taught from the class 10, 12, right? And believe me, no engineers can draw a correct bridge rectifier and means explain its operation. So I would like to focus or tell the new aspirants that they should make their basics clear. Then they can crack any interview. Because once you have a clear basics, you'll be having good confidence.
So I've also seen that we in college as well as in school, we are just taught in books. So how can one gain more practical experience so that even the basics are clear with that?
Yeah, for that, I think nowadays curriculums are a little bit changed, and from sixth semester or third year onwards, colleges are trying to get into agreements with companies for internships.
Yes.
So that is the good culture and good move what we are trying to do. As in Western countries, there is always a 6 months of internship you have to do before you get the certification. So moving that direction is good, and I think we should encourage colleges and your candidates also to try to get some internships. So that will definitely help you earning more knowledge.
Okay. And so what about the students which are in first year, first and second year? They've just started their college.
They should concentrate mainly on basics.
Okay. They can try.
Uh, uh, I'd like to add something since means we have chosen the field of engineering after means having decided on many other things.
Yes.
Right. So it is nearly most of the people choose it by themselves, or some of them are forced by parents.
Yes.
But once you have decided that you need to make a career out of this, so you should start understanding the basics, because now it is over. We cannot means we have identified a stream, we have been into the college, so now it is time to upgrade our skills, because competition is very tough. We have limited opportunities, okay, for so we have to crack those things, and for that our basics should be clear. That is my major concern.
So got it. Okay. So how did you start your journey, and like how did you understand that this is right for you?
Yeah, very interesting question. Actually, I passed out in 1996, and that time the colleges, good colleges like IITs and those have good placements, but other colleges don't have the placement. So we also don't get any placement, and we have to move to Delhi and search jobs, means going to places, giving interviews like that. So by that time, I got a job in means I was keen from the day one to get into design services. Okay, so I got a job, and then after 6 or 7 months, my boss means I started looking for good opportunities, as that was a small company. So
Mm.
one day my boss told me, "Hey, first you do your means clear out your basics, okay,
Mm.
and then if you go and search for a job, people will offer you more than what you are getting." And the same, then I also understood, yes, I'm not good at the basics, so I should first works on myself. And then you believe, for next 4 year I didn't appear for any interview. I was just clearing out my basics of the electronics, so doing the design works. And after that, it was really surprising for me also, when I got a chance for interview in Pentier. Then after I cleared all my technical rounds, then HR was asking me what is your expectation. So at that time, whatever I was earning, I just doubled it and said them, this is my expectation. And they said, is it okay for you? We cannot offer you this. We'll offer you 2 times more than this.
Okay.
So first you build the basics clear, and make yourself proficient on the electronic lines.
Mm.
If you have already decided to make it as a career, if you still have any doubt like the three idiots, then pursue your dream. But if you have decided to be make electronics as a career, make your basics clear.
So how did you practice in those 4 years? Like you referred to some books, some resources. Like if you could suggest.
Those actually, Tanya, the means designing during those eras of 90s was really difficult. If you are stuck with any problem, there was no Google at that time where you can just Google it out and find the answers. Nowadays, if you are stuck with any problem, just type it out, you will get
Yeah.
n number of replies for that. But at those days, you have to means only find out with some data sheets on few limited resources only, and exercise your brain. So that time we have spent means endless nights with we have worked for 48 hours in a stretch without any rest, just to find out why this portion of the circuit is not working. And that time it is purely on the knowledge what you can acquire from limited resources available to you, and how you conceptualize those, and how you relate those knowledges.
So you like their basic components. So did you take those components and just study them, or did you make some projects out of it?
Yeah, first you need to understand, for example, for electronic student, there is two type of transistor, NPN transistor and a PNP transistor. So what is the difference? Why, where you need to use NPN, where you need to PNP?
Hmm.
I don't believe in spoon feeding. If you come to me and ask, sir, in this area, should I use NPN or should I use PNP? I can tell you that today, but again tomorrow you will forget it.
Yes.
Because it is not from your learning was not from your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So first you try to understand and learn from your heart, not by asking someone, just by making a link between the things. Electronics means flow of electrons. So how the flow of electrons is happening in the devices, if you understand that, all basics will be clear.
Okay. Got it, sir. So while if we are making a project, sometimes it requires a lot of funds. So as a student, how can one manage it?
Hmm, if you have some good ideas, then obviously startups can be of help, and some of the projects can be funded from governments also. But actually, most of the students are just doing projects for the sake of submission,
Mhm.
not for actual means conversion of ideas into realities.
Yep.
Okay. Fund requirement is there. As of now in India, there is a lot of things, lot of startups coming up which can help in this conversion of projects into realities.
So,
We
sir,
also sponsor some projects like those.
okay. So, like, do the students have to prepare a complete project and then they have to show it to the company, or
A
just an
case
idea
study
can?
means project, not project concepts. Means architecture. What is the actual concepts they are looking for? What are the blocks they are thinking of? How they are executing project plans, basically, not the project report, project plan.
And so, how can they know that, like, which companies are ready to invest in such projects? Like, simply Googling can work. Is it mentioned in the sites?
But nowadays, Google gives you a lot of opportunities and a lot of inputs. You can find out anything you are looking for. First, you need to understand what is the scope of your project and where you are basically looking for it. Means which company will be interested for it. Okay. So, for example, if you are doing something on the mobile networking,
Mhm.
so you have to make a project plan targeting Reliance, Airtel in your mind.
Okay.
If you are making anything related to power electronics or EV, then you have to make the project plan targeting EV companies, Hero Honda, Maruti, like those. So you have to do your homework on actual requirement of the industry, and accordingly selecting the project and approaching the appropriate companies for that.
Okay, got it, sir. So if a student wants to launch their project as a product in the market, so what are the steps for that?
Uh, there will be basically, if you have a first you identify the project, then you have a successful prototype made. If your prototype is working functionally, then you can approach the companies which you have targeted initially.
Okay.
And if you want to start a own startup,
Mhm.
then there are a lot of schemes of governments coming up nowadays under Atmanirbhar Bharat and digital and startup India.
Mhm.
So there we can approach government organizations. There are proper channels for approaching them.
Okay.
So there you will get fundings based on the ideation and the concept of the project.
So students can start their own startup. Like, is it possible the
Yeah.
government will provide
Yes.
funding to
Yes.
them?
Yes. Yes. Since 2014, after Modi ji started the Startup India and Digital India programs, a lot of students, pass outs or freshers, and have started their own careers and are doing good. They are now employing at least 5 or 10 peoples.
Okay. So how important is this research and writing a research paper in electronics and communication domain?
Research is always important for any stream, not only electronics. Research is always important because technology is changing very fast. Means within a span of 6 months, you can see everything has changed. Okay, so research is obviously required for any means stream, whether electronics, chemical, or anything. So research basically means what was the other question you asked?
Research paper, writing a research paper.
Writing a research paper, first you have to do basically the complete means practicals and run through the topic you are just trying to explore,
Hmm.
and give the inputs regarding the, basically while writing a research paper you have to identify the problems what you are targeting with this research.
Okay.
What were the problems people are facing for which you are targeting this research,
Hmm.
and what are the outcomes if you implement these things. So you have to categorize like the problems, prior arts, if there is any prior arts for this, and what benefit you are adding, or what means addition you are doing to this prior art
New the student.
to have more improvising. Yeah.
Okay. So is having a good resume or a good CV actually matters in this field?
For freshers, it actually doesn't matter. It matters once you have earned experience of 5 7 years, then in the interview you have to explain what you have actually did. If you are stating 5 6 projects, so what was your role in the project, what you have did in the projects, then you have to explain. If you are actually have done something on the project, you can explain it very well. If you have understood the basics of the project, again you could explain it very well. But if you have just did some um, time pass jobs, then you will not be able to explain it. So after experience, resume matters, but for the freshers, resume doesn't matter that much.
So, but
It's
companies
only
usually ask for resume only.
a resume is asked. Resume is asked. But you can highlight. To be honest, what you can highlight on a resume of a freshers, it's only the name of the college and one or two project what you have done. So it's all come for the freshers on the aptitude test.
Hmm.
Normally, what matters is the aptitude test and your interview. And for the freshers, what we normally expect from a fresher, how good is his basic skills, how well he understand electronics. Because designing a circuit, we can uh, teach him,
Yeah.
but we cannot teach him how a resistance and capacitors works.
Hmm. So
So we
maybe.
try to identify, a interviewer try to identify how good you understand the electronics.
Okay. So can you name a few major companies which are working in electronics domain in India?
Electronics,
In electronics domain.
which are working.
Yes.
There are a lot of companies, Tanya, means all the companies, for example, automotive, they all have good R&D setups, then HCL, all companies who have means presence in the manufacturing fatality in India, they have good R&D setups for the electronics.
So many colleges do not offer direct placements in electronics domain, like in electronics industries. So how can students
Mhm.
go for that on their own?
Hmm. Placement, actually, colleges have limited placement opportunities, basically because first thing is opportunities for the electronics engineers is also limited.
Yeah.
Okay, only not much as compared to other countries or outside India. But and second thing is, in as I explained earlier, that there is a very limited hardware opportunities. So people have to first, what happens whenever a student come out of engineering, they always dream of a dream offer, like earning 70 80 lakhs per month salary. So that is the first thing they think, okay, okay, I'll have say minimum 1 lakh per month salary I want.
Mm.
But you need to understand, are you actually worth for that? Are you actually worth for that? You have to evaluate first yourself.
Okay.
If you do a real evaluation of yourself, then
Mhm.
you will work hard to achieve that level. So if it is not always necessary ki you get placed in a very good colleges. If you had been lucky, we had been in IIT Bombay,
Mhm.
right? So if we are not in IIT Bombay, we have to evaluate our level. Okay. So now I should not expect my first job to pay me 1 lakh or 50,000 rupees.
Mhm.
I have to prove myself in the industry, and then obviously, yes, I can dream of what I am looking for. So first, since I am not able to prove myself on the educational means part, now I have completed my graduation from a college which is not equivalent to IIT Bombay. So now I have to prove myself on field that I am better than a student of IIT Bombay. So for that, now education is over. Now I have to prove my skills. So you have to start working on the skills from the day one. Maybe your job is paying you just 5,000 rupees per month,
Mhm.
but there you learn, make your basics clear, and then try to compete. You have to compete. Anywhere you have to compete.
That is true, sir. And so, if a student does not want to take up a job after college or does not get a placement, so what are the other opportunities in electronics domain they can pursue other than a job?
Uh, Other than a job, means it's not always easy for anyone to make a startup. Okay,
Hmm.
so one option is that if you have good ideas, you can go for a startup. Second thing, what you can do is go for higher studies. And nowadays, electronics engineers have opportunities in the field of IoT and intelligence learning, data sciences also.
Yes.
So if they feel they're having any interest on that side, they can go for some good higher studies, and higher studies if they are not getting any jobs.
Okay. So, sir, we also did a survey to understand that what are the problems faced by EC domain students. So, here are a few of questions from them. So, the first
Mhm.
question is that is doing a course in AI effective for EC branch?
Yes, ECE student understands the AI more better than a communications than a computer engineer, because you understand what AI is. AI is artificial intelligence.
Mm.
For artificial intelligence, you need some inputs.
Yes.
Like our intelligence works on our input of seeing, believing, means smell, taste, all those things.
Yes.
But we are creating an artificial intelligence. For artificial intelligence, we also need sensors to
Mm.
give these inputs, like camera for capturing the images, smell sensor, temperature sensors, all those sensors. So a computer engineer can always work better on the data, what they get from the camera, what they get from the sensors. But if electronics engineers go for artificial intelligence, he can work from the very bottom of the sensor to the top level of the programming.
Okay.
Means he can understand how the camera works, he can understand how the image is captured from the camera. If he understand how the image is captured from the camera, he can process the image more effectively, more efficiently than a computer engineer who doesn't understand how the camera capturing the image. So anytime electronics engineers are better than a computer engineer in artificial intelligence.
Okay. And so the next question is that are microcontrollers like Arduino, ESP32, and STM32 actually used in industry for large scale projects?
Sorry, can you just repeat the
Yeah.
question, please?
Are microcontrollers like Arduino, ESP32, and STM32 actually used in industries for large scale projects? Or are they
Mhm.
just for small scale projects?
No. Arduino, and Arduino is basically a platform where you can develop your means small size projects. They are not for regular industrial productions. For regular industrial production, you have to go into a regular PCB. STM32 is obviously a good controller which is gone very popular in last 5 or 10 years. I was initially in charge of STM32 controller when it was launched by ST Microelectronics. So I have worked on many controllers from Atmel, Microchip, Texas, but I have found the STM32 very good controller. So STM32 is really changing the means, understanding of electronics engineer, or changing the domain of controllers. Other ESP32, Arduino, they are just for your startup or understanding or POC sort of things. They should cannot be go into a regular productions.
Okay. So there's another question, which is what all are the skills required to go into manufacturing and fabrication department?
Skills in terms of electronics engineer.
Yes, for manufacturing and fabrication, if a student wants to go in that department.
Manufacturing, basically, you need to understand the whole process, starting from your design transfers to productions. There are a lot of things. First, there will be a procurement, bill of material procurement. Then fabrications also have what type of complexities you are having in the circuit. If you need a automated fabrication plant, or you can just do it a manual job, so you have to identify those things. So first, basically, you have to identify the EMS who will do the manufacturing services for you, electronic manufacturing services. Then you have to decide on the quality processes, what type of quality you are going to implement for this product. Because ultimately, the product which goes into the field brings you the name. If the product is failing in the field, your name is not there. So first you have to identify the processes what are required in the manufacturing. Normal processes are basically procurement, EMS services, quality, testing, and then your approval, means marketing.
Okay, so they have to understand all of these first.
Yes.
Okay. And so how is the electronics industry able to manage in this lockdown?
It is difficult, but not much means unbearable sort of thing, because electronic is the only hope what we are getting. Means in future, everything will be digitized with the introduction of artificial intelligence, and new means technology is coming up. So you can see everything will be digitized in the near future. So the scope is always there in electronics industries, and design houses and means companies which are dealing directly with the electronic setups are doing good, not much affected during the lockdown. Obviously there are effects. There are if businesses are shut, then you are not able to convert anything into reality, so how you can just earn. Obviously there are some difficulties, but still we have requirements which are growing exponentially. From the electronics industry, requirements are growing with the EV, for example. In By 2030, all the vehicles will be converted into electric vehicles. So you can imagine the enormous requirement what are having for the electronics people. Because in EV industry, there is no other domain expert who can help other than electronics. The software engineer cannot come for a EV industry.
Yes.
Because EV mainly works on the electronics, power electronics, how to drive a motor, how to charge a battery, how to protect the battery. Everything is electronics there.
Okay. Got
So
it.
enormous field is opening up for electronics peoples. And I believe by next 5-6 years, there will be more demand for electronics people in India than the computer peoples.
Okay. So sir, in EDS India, you have designed a variety of products like for railways and airports as well, the LED walls. So what is the complete
Mhm.
process of designing any new product? Like how do you start from it?
Yeah, how do you start? First, we need to understand what the pain point of our customers.
Mhm.
What actually the existing, because we are not the first one to design a LED board. LED boards are there since 70s or 80s. Okay, so first we need to understand what is the current problem the customer is facing with the existing boards. We have to identify those points first. Then we have to understand what is the exact requirement. First, we have to generate a FSR sheet,
Okay.
functional specification requirement. What are the basically requirement from the end product?
Mhm.
We have to generate that list. Then we have to identify the blocks which has to be used in this as per this requirement. Then comes your schematic and layout designing.
Mhm.
And after that, we have to go for the software design, where we have to follow all the software development life cycles. And then there will be a thorough testing based on the FSR. Means FSR and testing sheet should be linked together.
Mhm.
Means for example, if in your functional requirement there is a point that this should not operate beyond temperature of 70 degree, so at the testing document there should be a test clause which identifies pertaining to that FSR. As soon as you increase temperature to 70 degree, it should set off. So those type of testing is required for a product to be more robust. And the second thing you need to means over see what will be the conditions in the field, because doing a lab testing for a product is very easy. Unless you foresee the conditions what is going to be happen with this device in the field,
Mhm.
then you cannot make a good designs. So you have to understand, or you have need to means required to foresee the means problems this device will be facing in the industry.
Okay.
Means what type of environment it will be pushed into. Say your LED board installation is in the sunlight. So sunlight normally in June, July, it is 45 degrees centigrade outside the body, but inside the cabinet it is again 10 degree higher than that. That means it is 50, 55. So
Mhm.
your component selection has to be like that.
Okay.
So all these things will come from your functional specification requirement and understanding of the environment where your product is to be. You have to understand the environment properly while designing a product.
So understanding is the main concept. Okay, so after you design a product completely, how long is the testing period before you actually launch it?
Normally, testing period should be similar to that of the design period. Testing is the most major thing what you have basically need to do while designing a project. Means design cycles can, if your design cycle is of 15 days, the testing cycle should be of 15 days. Equal testing cycles should be there, so that you can test it in all the possible conditions which may occur in the field. Elaborative test cycle is required for a good product.
Okay.
Our designs normally industry standard of rejection ratio is 2%. Our designs is having a rejection ratio of 1.4%, which is quite below the industry standard,
Mhm.
because we focus mainly on what the environment this product is going to be, and what all possible means harsh things can happen to this product. First we take means jot down those points, and then we start the design based on those lines.
Okay. So one last thing I would like to ask you to give an advice to all those budding engineers listening to you.
Mhm.
So any advice you would like to give?
Advice, obviously yes, if you have selected EEC, means by luck or by chance, whatever was the decision, but now you are EEC engineers, and believe me, there will be good opportunities for good EEC engineers. So because with the coming of AI, as I told you, obviously there will be huge means opportunities coming up. Okay.
Mhm.
And believe me, I am also electronics engineer, but nowadays I'm more into the software side. So what I realized that electronics engineers can write a program of the computer more effectively than computer engineers, because you understand the nitty-gritties, you understand the in-depth of bit and byte, what a
Mhm.
computer engineer doesn't understand. So if you understand the nitty-gritties of bit and bytes, you can more optimize the codes. You can have more optimized code than any other computer engineers.
Okay.
So just be hopeful that you will having good opportunities. My only advice is just work on your basics.
Mhm.
Once your basics is clear, you can crack anything. You can crack anything.
So is a just the last question, that is AI necessary? Like is it mandatory for ECE student or just pure electronics
No,
and
it is not mandatory. It is not mandatory. It is a upcoming field which have good opportunities and good promises. Okay, because ultimately everything will shift into the AI domain. So it is obviously, as I told you in the beginning, there are three major upcoming fields. One is IoT,
Mhm.
that is the connectivity machine connections. Second is artificial intelligence, and third is EVs. So these three fields will have good opportunities for electronics engineers in the coming years.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was a great learning
Thank
experience
you.
from you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
nice
much
talking
for
to you.
this talk. Thank you.